Leading principle. Market participants are expected to behave in an ethical and professional manner to promote the fairness and integrity of the FX market. The ethical and professional behavior of market participants underpins the fairness and integrity of the FX market. The exercise of judgment is central to acting ethically and professionally, and market participants should be guided in doing so by the high-level principles below, both when applying the specific guidance in the global code and at all times when participating in the FX market. Principle 1. Market participants should strive for the highest ethical standards. Market participants should act honestly in dealings with clients and other market participants. Act fairly, dealing with clients and other market participants in a consistent and appropriately transparent manner. Act with integrity, particularly in avoiding and confronting questionable practices and behaviors. Maintaining high standards of behavior is the responsibility of firms, which should promote ethical values and behavior within the organization, support efforts to promote high ethical standards in the wider FX market, and encourage involvement by personnel in such efforts. Senior and frontline management, which should be proactive in embedding and supporting the practice of ethical values within the firm's culture and be prepared to give appropriate advice to personnel. And personnel, who should apply judgment when facing ethical questions, expect to be held responsible for unethical behavior and seek advice where appropriate. Personnel should report and or escalate issues of concern to appropriate parties internally or externally, having regard to the circumstances. Principle 2. Market participants should strive for the highest professional standards. All market participants share a common interest in maintaining the highest degree of professionalism and the highest standards of business conduct in the FX market. High standards of conduct are underpinned by having sufficient knowledge of and complying with applicable law, having sufficient relevant experience, technical knowledge, and qualifications, acting with competence and skill, applying professional judgment in following the firm's guidelines and operating procedures, including, but not limited to, methods of execution, record keeping, and ethical behavior, and engaging in efforts to strive for the highest standards of professionalism in the wider FX market. Firms should have personnel who are appropriately trained and who have the necessary experience to discharge their employment duties in a professional manner. Principle 3. Market participants should identify and address conflicts of interest. Market participants should identify actual and potential conflicts of interest that may compromise or be perceived to compromise the ethical or professional judgment of market participants. Market participants should eliminate these conflicts or, if this is not reasonably possible, effectively manage them, so as to promote fair treatment of their clients and other market participants, up to and including abstaining from undertaking the relevant activity or action due to the conflict of interests. Personnel should be aware of the potential for conflicts of interest to arise and comply with their firm's policies in these areas. Contexts in which conflicts may arise include, but are not limited to, situations where personal or firm interests may conflict with those of a client or other market participant, or where such a conflict arises for the market participant because the interests of one client may conflict with those of another. Personal relationships, gifts and corporate entertainment, and personal dealing. Market participants should put in place appropriate and effective arrangements to eliminate or manage conflicts of interest. This could include segregation of duties and or reporting lines, establishing information barriers, altering the duties of personnel when such duties are likely to give rise to conflicts of interest, providing training to relevant personnel to enable them to identify and handle conflicts of interest, establishing declaration policies and or records for identified conflicts of interest and personal relationships, as well as for gifts and corporate entertainment received, and having policies and controls on personal dealing, where it is concluded that a specific conflict of interest cannot reasonably be avoided or effectively managed. Market participants should disclose sufficient details of the conflict to enable the affected parties to decide beforehand whether or not they wish to proceed with the transaction or service.